procedures for certain climate action to provide consistent application at the project level as a set of criteria and procedures. So for process to work under the ICR program, they may apply approved methodologies, ICR methodologies, other methodologies that are informed by other TSC programs, or establishment of criteria and procedures within the project documentation. Generally, the principles then we are, of course, are governed by the carbon principles, with its relevance, completeness, consistency, accuracy, transparency, and conservativeness. The methodology approved process is informed by a set of requirements, a set of procedures, support material, and then templates. The ICR methodology establishes the requirements that are needed for methodology to adhere to. ISO 14064-2, as often mentioned. Of course, then there are terms and conditions that needs to be adhered to. This is then governed by the approval process that we are describing now. ICR definitions, and then for consistency, we have different templates for, first of all, concept notes, methodology descriptions, and then validation reports for methodologies. So essentially, what is a methodology? So methodology outlines criteria and procedures on how to measure and calculate TST emission reduction, removals, or enhancement for specific activities or projects. It defines the approach for determining baseline monitoring emissions and report on TST impacts, ensuring that processes are systematic, reproducible, and verifiable. So I often describe methodologies as being recipes for delivering the same output constantly. So they define the scope, the applicability, they provide the project or methodological definitions that are lies outside the scope of the ICR and ISO standards, and then how to establish the baseline, determine additionality, boundary, quantification, and monitoring. So the methodology requirements is something that most of you are quite familiar with. It's structured in a manner to deliver this consistent output. So referencing other methodologies that inform the development and other sources that are used as a reference material is how is a summary about of the methodology, how definitions are to be presented, applicability conditions, boundary, baseline scenario, determination of the baseline scenario, additionality, quantification, and monitoring. Then an implementation of a project, which is something that we want to see before the final approval is granted. All methodologies are, of course, need to follow these templates. Hopefully in the future we will see that we'll start using technology instead of Word templates, but currently we rely on Word templates for the development, and they define and they are aligned with the requirements, so a reader should be able to understand what needs to be included in each section of the templates. And in the templates, we provide quite robust and understandable instructions. So the methodology process or the approval process starts with a submission of a concept note, which ICR reviews and provides feedback on. If ICR determines that the methodology is the concept for a methodology is robust enough, it approves that to process into the methodology development, or if it's not sufficient, it requires some iteration before it can progress into a methodology in a further development of that methodological concept. Then the methodology developer develops the methodology, follows of course the feedback that is received through the concept note review, then initiates a public consultation or it initiates the validation of that methodology. We are now in the public consultation of this methodology. We then gather the feedback from the consultation, comments received from stakeholders, deliver that to the developer and the VVP that needs to consider the feedback received. Then finally, when the methodology has been validated by an approved VVP, we do a final review, consistency and completeness review of that methodology with the ICR requirements in mind, followed by the board approval. In parallel, the methodology approval, we want to see the application of that methodology at the project level, either through a dummy project or through a real life project. So we see that how the methodology informs a PDD. So moving on, with the M-ICR018, we started working with Lloyds and Ecoveda the end of summer last year. When we got the submission of a concept note, we reviewed that the concept note, gathered some feedback to the developers. Then that was in September, and then through September and through March, we received the final methodology, draft PDD, and responsive to the concept note, along with a gap analysis as between the submission of the concept note, we did minor changes to the program. So we encouraged that the developer would do a gap analysis of the update. Now we are in the public consultation for the methodology that started in early April and finalizes on the 2nd of May. Following the consultation, we will consolidate the comments and deliver to the developer. So, like I mentioned, the public consultation is ongoing for the methodology. You can scan this QR code or just go through the documentation page of the ICR program and participate in the public consultation. And I will transition to the presentation that will be presented by Atlis from Ecoveda. Where are we? I'm going to put up the presentation from Ecoveda. So that is using Atlis. Are you ready?
Yes, please show the screen. And
now I will be sharing the presentation from Lloyds and Ecoveda. So please go ahead, Atlis.
okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. So joining from different regions across the globe. So yes, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule to attend this webinar. So yes, your feedbacks is very important for us. So for further improvement, making it more robust and then applicable across the globe. So yes, I will be briefly presenting about the aspect what we have considered under this methodology, and how we calculate, how we see the baseline additionality, and then what kind of parameters we are going to monitor, how this methodology is prepared based on the inputs and the other research work we have done in last 1 year. And at the last, we will also have the person from Lloyd, Mr. Ajay Kamble, who will present the project for which specifically we have designed this methodology, and that is the best reason we have designed this particular methodology. But yes, we are trying to make this methodology globally applicable. So yes, we always encourage participants to share the comments and about anything related to any default factor or any other calculation parameter which make it more robust and applicable or across the globe. Thank you. Next slide, please. May I have the next slide? No.
Yep.
Stops here. Just a moment.
Something froze.
Sorry, some technical issues just a moment.
Okay. And
Should I try to present my screen?
Live. What is this?
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh, here, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
yes.
Sorry about this.
It's working. Okay. So coming to the core concept of this methodology, so this methodologies, we have designed that it can be used for project activity that construct a new pipeline, so greenfield pipeline, and that results in shift in mode of transportation of minerals, mainly solid minerals extracted from the mines, which may be transported through trucks via roads to the pipeline transportation to reduce the emissions pattern of product or mineral transported from mines to the processing facility. So mainly we have considered that mines, mineral mines like iron ore mines and aluminum, other mines, they are located in remote areas. The mode of transport mainly remains via road through trucks, and then so we're shifting to pipeline, and we have seen and we have calculated the emission reductions for the dummy project, that we came to know that almost 50% of the emissions via road transport can be reduced if we shift from trucks to pipeline transport. So that is the basic understanding about the core concept of the project activity. Yes, Lloyds Metals and Energy Limited, they are coming up with their first project, and that is the reason for developing this methodology. And Ecoveda did the technical work, and yes, we adopted part of CDM methodologies for developing this methodology. But now, since CDM methodologies will become redundant after some time, so yes, there is also a need to shift to the new methodologies which may align with the Article 6 requirements. So, and then yes, we have received some comment about the dynamic baseline, so that we will consider. So basically, we developed this methodology with Lloyds Metals and Energy Limited, and the emission type, yes, it's obviously it's change emission reduction type activity. Coming to the next slide. So these are the main applicability conditions. There are many we have added, but you can go through the draft methodology to see that. Yes, we are trying to make this methodology globally applicable. yes, the first applicability condition, that is, it should be a greenfield project. So it applies only when a new pipeline is being built, shifting transport from truck to pipeline. It's not like retrofitting or updation of the existing pipeline network to transport the minerals here. And geographical feasibility, like we say that yeah, site condition must permit the use of different transportation mean, at least two. Yes, the most feasible baseline scenario and the project scenario. At least, yeah, there may be other feasible ways out, but yes, here we have considered this methodology or devised it, considering that mines are inland mines and then located in the remote areas where the only way to transport the minerals from mines to the processing facility is via road using trucks, heavy trucks. So yes, one of the more crucial applicability condition is that should be sufficient road capacity available. Yes, it is the minimum requirement. It should not be the baseline should not be hypothetical one. So the road transport capacity must exist at project start, before the project start, and throughout the crediting period to transport the minerals via the road using trucks. And yeah, we have ensured that there should be no double accounting. The proponent must demonstrate that there is no double accounting via contractual agreement with the mineral owners. If the mineral owner is separate from the pipeline, slurry pipeline owner or the end user or who is using it in the mineral processing plant, the processing facility, then there should be a contractual agreement to avoid double accounting of the emission reduction achieved. Thank you. Next slide, please. So these are some of the important parameters which we are going to monitor. Yes, there are other parameters also, but these are the main ones. The fuel consumption of trucks is estimated using historical data. So yeah, that is basically to check the baseline scenario. We have come up with some default factors. Yes, we have received some queries that those default factors are very old from the CDM methodology. Yes, that is true. And we are going to update it with the latest values. Maybe it is DEPRA or IPCC or some other reliable source. And we also wish to keep the provision for using a reason-specific value. But yes, if you go through the methodology in detail, there are option A and option B. The option B is default value. Option B, you can calculate it if you have the real-time data of the road transport, which was happening before the project activity. So all the options we are keeping open here. And then CO2 emission factor of fuel is taken from supplier data. We try to use the same hierarchy like we have in CDF and other mechanisms. Like first we go with local data, then regional, and then national. National is not available, then IPCC default value can be used. Same goes for net calorific value of the fuel, which was used in the trucks. So here we have considered petrol diesel for the project activity which we are planning which will be the first project activity under this methodology. So we have already did the study, and then we have seen that this is the only fuel available right now. No other type of vehicles, fuel type vehicles are available for transportation through road of minerals. So distance of baseline transport route is determined from historical data, that is measurement by a road from the mines till the factory gate where the minerals will be processed. So that distance is already, it will be at actual, and it will remain constant throughout the monitoring period or crediting period, you can say. The quality of mineral transported by trucks is based on the historical record, and then yes, and there are data. So it will be fixed ex ante at the time of validation. So it will be a kind of cap. If in future project proponent or project owner wish to increase the capacity of the facility and transport more minerals, so the emission reduction will be kept and the baseline emission will be kept to the value which was fixed ex ante at the time of starting of the project, validation of the project. And then we have deforested land area because laying the pipeline from difficult terrains, because mines are mostly located in remote areas. So there may be some forest area in between which may be impacted while laying the pipeline. So any loss to forest or the tree during the laying the pipeline, which will be accounted as the project emission. And then above ground mass of land is estimated using default IPCC values here. If the local values are available, it can be used. So the provision we are going to make. But yes, in the absence of reliable data, IPCC values will be used. Next slide, please. So about monitored parameters, yes, the amount of mineral transported by pipeline and drugs is measured daily and aggregated annually. So and then baseline cap is there. So if it is more than the baseline fixed value, like 10 million ton, then it's the baseline value. Then if it is more than that, it will be kept. The distance of truck transportation route is measured annually. So this is for the complementary routes. And there are some complementary routes, like we are shifting to pipeline from the road transport to trucks. But yes, this may be the case, like earlier the minerals have been loaded in the trucks from the mines itself and then transported to the factory gate. But when we are constructing the pipeline, this may not be the case. There may be 4 or 5 kilometers of complementary route from mines till the facility where the mineral is converted to the slurry by mixing the water. So that is considered as complementary route. So those kind of emissions will be accounted for in the project scenario if such kind of route, complementary route, will be there. So to account for that, the distance of truck transportation route is measured annually. The specific fuel consumption of truck is determined through sampling at the start of each crediting period. It remains fixed. If not available, we will use a globally acceptable conservative default value. The fossil fuel consumption for operating the pipeline system is measured daily and recorded aggregated annually. And so fossil fuel consumption, electricity consumption to manage the slurry pipeline system, which includes the slurry preparation plant and then pipeline system, and then the receiving end, there will be dewatering plant to remove the water from the slurry. So all these facilities, any fossil fuel or electricity consumption will be monitored, measured periodic basis and aggregated annually, and which will be reported during each verification. Next slide, please. So this is just to show the baseline scenario. So it includes, although it includes all realistic, credible alternative to the project activity. Yes, but it must comply with the host party laws and regulation. That is the basic requirement. And then baseline option must deliver the same service level as the project, transport same quantity of minerals. So the most feasible baseline scenario here we have considered is the transportation through trucks. Transportation to rail lines may also be a suitable alternative if rail line exists to transfer the minerals from the mines to the processing plant. So that is one option. But yes, in the methodology specifically, we mentioned that this is only applicable when the most feasible baseline scenario is transportation to trucks. So yes, this is what we have presented in the baseline scenario, but we have kept it open. All feasible baseline alternatives will be discussed, and the most feasible baseline scenario will be determined. Next slide, please. So this is the project scenario. In project scenario, from mines, the mineral transported to the slurry preparation facility where the water is mixed, and to maintain the flow of the pipeline. So there will be certain technical aspect which has been adopted. and it is specific to the pipelines, each pipeline, so each project activity. So there was a detailed feasibility study conducted by client, and accordingly it was devised how much will be the mixing, what will be the pressure and flow, so that a mineral can be safely transported using minimum amount of water. So yes, they got the project developer has taken the approval for using the water for transport. But yes, they also adopted the practice that when water has been separated at the receiving end, it may be utilized in the processing facility to the maximum extent without discharging it in open. So the project developer always try to reuse it. So the slurry preparation, then it is transported to the pipeline, and then there will be a dewatering plant, and then after that it will be directly transferred to the mineral processing plant. This is the present project scenario under this methodology. And next slide, please. So additionality, I think ICR has already defined the additionality frameworks. They have levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4, 5. So level 1, 2, and 3, I think it's now mandatory. So that I think ICR can clarify, but yes, level 4 and 5, they are optional. Then best scenario, we can decide, it's up to the project developer to use it based on the ICR requirements for additionality. So I'm not gonna discuss this in detail, but yes, it will be based on the ICR requirements. So now coming to the project overview. So now I would like to invite Mr. from Lloyds Group, who can discuss a little bit and describe a little bit about the project activity.
Thank you, Akhilesh, and thank you ICR team for inviting us. Thank you very much. So this pipeline, the length is around. It starts from the mine, where we have a grinding unit. We grind the iron ore, the mineral, in a particular size in which it can be transported in a slurry form. We pump it through the header line, and at the receiving end, we have a mineral processing unit, which is generally people from the steel and iron background. They can understand. We have a pellet plant where we defilter it and make a filter cake out of it from the concentrate, iron ore concentrate, and further make pellets. So basically, this slurry pipeline, while laying the slurry pipeline, there were no tree cuttings. So we have obtained the right of way along the existing road, which is very small. So no tree cuttings while the project activities. Also, not only from the point of perspective GHG emission, this slurry pipeline also will help in terms of other ESG aspects such as air pollution or the health or safety related issues because of the conventional road transport, the dust emissions. So along with the GHG benefit, the project has additional benefits out of it. And as mentioned by Akhilesh, we estimate around 34 to 35,000 ton CO2 savings per annum. Once we integrate it with the renewable energy, it can go up. Yeah. Yes, Akhilesh. Thank you.
So thank you. That is the brief overview of the project activity. And then yes, over to you, Gurpandu.
I was muted. Thank you, AJ and Akhilesh, for this presentation. Well structured, and thank you for informing us about this pilot project that you are working on. So we are now at the Q&A session. So I think, Björn, can you explain how to submit?
Yes.
Through the
Q&A.
Yes.
So yeah, like I explained earlier, you can either, I see someone has added a question in the chat. That is okay. We will try to monitor the chat as well, but you can also use the QA feature, which is just in the bottom right corner where you can add a question there and we can provide an answer. There are 2 questions currently in the Q&A and 1 in the chat. So let's just start with the first one. Can you explain how existing methodological logic has informed this methodology, where it deviates from those approaches, and how it aligns or anticipates developments under the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism, or the PACM? So as
maybe Achilles, you may maybe take this one.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yes, we have explained this in detail in the methodology itself. There is a section 1.1 where we discussed all applicable or similar kind of methodologies available across various GHG programs, and then why they are as it is not applicable for our project activity type, like the similar one, that modal shift in transportation of liquid fuel. So that doesn't talk about the mineral transportation. Yes, slurry pipeline preparation for mineral transport involves distinct operational dynamics, and then there is pumping energy profile, baseline emissions compared to the liquid fuel transports. They are different, a little bit different. So that is why revision was necessary, or the new kind of methodology need to be proposed. So we have discussed all those methodologies and why they are as not applicable for our project scenario. So we request you to go through that, and still if you have any queries, yes, you're welcome to ask us, or through the dedicated interface which has been provided, and then yes, it is open for the consultation also. We will try to address your queries and personally, and then we try to revert with the suitable answer, or the answer which satisfies your requirements. But yes, alignment with Paris PACM, yes, we are also waiting for the guidelines. But I think ICR, as and when they will ask us, we will abide by those things, and then we will try to align it with the Paris Agreement creating mechanism. Yes, we already have received some queries about setting up the dynamic baseline. Yes, we are working on this. How feasible it is to the project activity, that is one case. Yes, under ICR, since the crediting period is only 5 years, every 5 years when you come for the renewal, so maybe we can reset the baseline scenario based on the fleets and what kind of fuel they're using. Yes, surely that is one point we can consider in our methodology. But yes, those are the things we are planning to include, but to what extent that it all depends on feasibility part.
okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. I had actually prepared some a question relating to like the application of dynamic baseline logic. If you had considered that, so thank you for the explanation.
So here's one from the chat. Is life cycle impact assessment to quantify full set of emissions a part of the methodology requirement?
So if this is phased toward the ICR methodology requirements, we don't have a specific requirement to a full-on life cycle impact assessment on the in the methodology requirements. But of course, the boundary needs to be robustly determined. The baseline logic needs to be determined, and of course, the parts of the emissions need to be accounted for. but not not a reference towards, for example, ISO 40040 on the life cycle impact assessment.
And also, just
Um,
to add what Kutwando already explained, we want to keep it simple, not to a kind of complex methodology which is difficult to adopt. Doing life cycle assessment and then assessment of the emission for construction of this new facility, that will complicate the methodology a little bit and make it less adaptable to the project developers, because the type of emission reductions achieved or number of emission reductions are not that much, which encourage the project developer to go for such kind of studies separately. So we try to simplify it. But yes, if you have some default emission factor or kind of default values available and the sources you wish to refer, you can refer, we can go through it. And if we can adopt it, yes, if it is feasible to adopt, we will adopt. Thank you.
Okay.
I may have one question that relates a little bit to the question is it relates to leakage. So model shift from road to pipeline systems may have indirect effects on wider transport market. Does the methodology identify and account for potential leakages in the methodology, or how reduced demand for trucking could lead to the redeployment of vehicles in other routes?
See, we will check this during the project implementation. We wish to keep a provision like if the trucks in the baseline scenario which were used, they are owned by the project developer itself, then definitely there may be some diversion or of those uses of those trucks, which may happen in the project scenario also. So we wish to account for that. But yes, if all the trucks which were hired for transportation of minerals from mines to the processing facility, they are on contract basis, definitely they will find some other ways or other work to do for. So it may be outside the project boundary to monitor the uses of those trucks in the absence of after means coming up with this project activity. But yes, if it is owned by the project developer, yes, we may try to find out a way to check for any leakages.
Thank you for that. One question from that we have received some feedback through the public consultation, and one feedback highlights that, for example, the key parameters are the emission factors and other inputs may change over time. How does the methodology ensure that monitored parameters remain current and representative over the crediting period? And are any provisions for any updates to avoid over or underestimation of the reductions?
Thank you. I just wish to add here that with one of the example like baseline factor, we have considered a factor of 76 grams of CO2 per ton kilometer for the baseline truck transport. Yes, and that was taken as a legacy from CDM-based methodology. But yes, now we are trying to find out the values, and we wish to keep the provision open. Like I said earlier, we will try to keep the provision open for any local value if it is available. And other than that, if local is not available, regional value can be utilized. We have seen like for India, for our projects, we are planning to use default GHG emission values, which is when declared by Smart Freight Center India SFCI latest in May 2025. So those values we can use for our project activity, and we keep this provision open. There are the EFRA default values declared by DEFRA also. There are other ways also. So we will mention those sources, and we encourage the project developers to use the most appropriate value rather than going with the default one. But yes, default value we will keep as a provision when the project developer or the reliable value is not available. Suppose for a country in Africa where the reliable value is not available, So a conservative default value will be declared in the methodology itself.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a little bit of like a practical question relating to like the buy side of like any credits that stands out of the project activity. So given the nature of the emission reductions from the project activities, who do you see as the primary buyers of credits generated under this methodology? And what type of claims would those credits support?
Sorry, yeah, come again, please. I'm not able to understand. And there may be some breakage in between.
To repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. So, like, just given
Yeah,
the nature of the
yeah.
yeah. So, like, who do you see the primary buyers of the output of these projects? Do you see any specific industries that would be interested in in supporting this project types?
Yeah, most probably the buyers will be from industrial side, like steel, cement industries, largely depend on the minerals extracted from the mines nearby. So yes, then maybe corporates with supply chain emissions, they wish to reduce the supply chain emissions. And then, yes, there may be voluntary market participants seeking transport, logistics, decarbonization. So they may be the buyer, probable buyer for this kind of emission reduction. Yes, especially belongs to scope 3 emission reduction. So hopefully once the decarbonization plans include scope 3 emission, which is not now for most of the declarants. So yes, there will be more buyers or of this kind of credits in the market.
All right, thank you. Are there any more questions in the pipeline?
Not that I see, and I think you have answered the questions all in the QA. The one about the baseline scenario remains valid. Yeah, we've already gone through that. So, okay.
So like I already said, as of now, we have kept a static baseline in the first version. But yes, in future revisions, we may introduce dynamic baseline like periodic review to reflect infrastructure changes, over-crediting risk. We can try to mitigate to conservative emission factors and tonnage gaps. Yeah, that is obviously there. And we will try to align with the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism. We want to ensure it through conservativeness, transparency, and then we are complying with ISO 64 Part 2 also. And yes, as we already discussed, anticipating dynamic baselines and broader participation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And just reminds so that like carbon markets are constantly developing, and methodologies are going to improve over time. There are going to be more additional requirements and methodologies are going to be revised. So but we need to start somewhere. So just one maybe final question.
Yeah, there is one question here since we have time. So how does the methodology ensure that selecting a baseline route based on least fuel consumption in the absence of historical data does not lead to unrealistically low baseline emissions and consequently inflated emission reductions?
So like we already told you that the baseline route will be the route which is being followed for transporting the minerals from the mines in the absence of the project activity. And then these pipelines have been laid across along with the road only. So yes, while selecting this, it is up to the VVB. There is VVB and ICR who are looking into what we are going to present. So yes, obviously, there are checks and balances available, which ensures that the baseline route will be the most conservative route. And then, yes, for the project activity we are going to present, the first project activity here, we are laying the pipeline along with the road through which the present transportation of minerals are happening. So it will be exactly similar to the distance or the length of the pipeline is exactly almost similar to the road distance between the mines to the processing facility. So yes, the checks are there. VVV is there to check whether it is conservative or not. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I think this will then just
And
conclude.
just the final question for me, then, like giving that there are a number of programs available, why did you choose to work with us instead of Gold Standard, DCC, or whoever?
Yeah, ICR, going with ICR because ICR offers flexibility for new methodologies and in fact, the transparent governance alignment, you are also aligning yourself with the ISO 64 part 2, which is basic for all the mechanisms, and you are slowly aligning yourself with BACM also, and you also allow innovative sectoral approaches like mineral pipelines to be validated quickly. That is one aspect where the reason for going with ICR, and also ensuring the credibility and global applicability at the same time. That is the basic reason going with the ICR as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, so just to confirm that this webinar has been recorded, and we will share the recording after with all participants. And yes, so.
And of course, the recording will be available on the public consultation page as well.
Yeah. Exactly. And yes, so
And
just to confirm,
just last one word from my side. Whoever given their comment during the webinar in the chat box, we encourage you to give your comments or feedback on the website, on the methodology page itself, so that it can be recorded properly and we try to address them and make the methodology more robust, transparent, and conservative. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, we will consolidate all the comments that are received through the public consultation and share with the developers, Ecoveda and Lloyds members, and of course, then later with the VVP that will be validating the methodology. So thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join. And yes, just have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.